just while you were talking, because for people listening, like you just said a whole mess of shit. So it's basically
Yeah, I
like it's like leadership is everything. Basically, is what
Yeah.
is almost what that is. Like
Yeah.
you just went through a bunch of examples, and just while you were talking, I came up with my own definition. So this is
Oh, nice.
I think they should replace
Write a new book.
in Webster's dictionary. This is what they should put if it's not already there.
Okay.
It's doing what it takes to make the team consistently succeed. So that's what I would define leadership as. So doing whatever it takes to make the team consistently succeed. So now succeed doesn't mean win necessarily. Consistently is a big word in there, because if you make the team succeed once, you might be doing things that aren't necessarily beneficial in the long term. And doing whatever it takes, to me, that kind of like, it just encompasses all the examples that you just gave. So whatever it takes could be how you treat people, your example on the ice, your example off the ice, all that kind of stuff. That's kind of, if I had to put it into one sentence, best I could, that's what I just came up with right now. And I think that's a good way to think about it. Do whatever it takes to make the team consistently succeed. If you're doing that, then you're exhibiting leadership for sure. And so that's a really important thing, that especially for kids, if you're trying to, because people always say we need a leader, who's going to be the leader, who's going to step up, like all this stuff. That's a way that you can frame it in just one sentence. And then all those examples you gave are really good things that you guys can follow, because they happen every game, every practice with your team all the time. And one thing I want to highlight that you said is being the boss doesn't automatically make you the leader.
Right.
And that's can go for anything. It could be a hockey team. It could be a business thing. It could be a whatever.
And being the best player doesn't make you the leader.
That's right.
A lot of people assume that.
You're not, and you're not, unless you're doing, you can be. And one of the things you said early on there was that the guy who talks the most isn't always the leader. You can be the leader if you talk the most.
Yeah.
But it's not a given that you're the leader just because you're talking.
Lead.
That's right. So anyone who's been on a team of any kind before, you totally know what's going on. It could happen in your family. It could happen with your spouse or your partner, whatever. And if you don't have somebody, at least one of you, and there can be more than one, but at least one person who's that glue guy, that glue person that can bring everyone together and help work through problems in whatever the setting is, then you're at a big disadvantage as a team if you want to succeed over time. And that can be a company thing, a team thing, or whatever thing, And the other thing is that the willingness to kind of reach out to the people, the example you gave, like in the room where guys, you see a guy's having a bad day or whatever, and even if you don't like the guy, you still, as the leader, need to reach out and try to help the situation, because this person's part of your team.
Yeah.
And I had one example of that. So when I was in my last year of junior, I was going through a problem that was very known, and when I moved there, I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anyone, and so I'm dealing with some personal things going on. And the captain of my team, who I didn't know, sent me a text one night. I was by myself at my billets, and I wasn't friends with any of these guys yet. I just moved there, and he just asked me, like, "Hey man, what's going on? Like, I know you're going through whatever is going on. Like, what's up? Like, are things cool? Like, is everything good? Are you getting through it okay? Like, this kind of stuff." And I was like, "Holy shit, man!" And like, I'm never gonna forget that for the rest of my life.
No,
now.
I know.
And this guy who was on my team, he wasn't the most vocal person. He wasn't the most rah person, but I had way more respect for him as the captain of our team now because he did that.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Okay, this is actually a guy that I think some of the boys can count on. Like, we can count on this guy to, at least in that domain, have a good element of leadership that is worth having, and he's worthy of being called the leader of the team when he's doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's that willingness to also reach out across the not across, I don't want to say across the aisle, politically speaking, maybe, but like if it's just a personal situation when it's someone you don't know or someone you aren't friends with or don't even like, they're still on your team, man, and you still need to. You got to bring them together to make the team function properly. Well. So all of that kind of stuff, when you are the leader, it's on you kind of to take ownership of what you're doing in that, and whatever the domain is, because you're the one in control of the team, or at the head of the table or whatever, right? So I want to bleed into the book now.
It's the best book ever.
So this is, like you're saying, there's a book by Jocko. So for people watching, this is the book. It's called Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink, and he wrote it with Leif Babin, who's another Navy SEAL guy. So Jocko's got like a bunch of books out, and he's a pretty rah dude. But what I really like about this book is the way that it's laid out is he points out, or he basically tells a war story. So when they were in Iraq in like 2006 or whatever, he'll tell a story about in battle on the battlefield, something that happened, or in the planning of going on the battlefield, something that happened. Then he'll extract out a principle from that story, and he'll explain the principle, and then he'll give you a real world, more of a business example of how it could apply to just life. Because what he says a lot is war and battle is like life on steroids, basically.
Yeah, it's the ultimate.
Yeah, and I think it's sports is a lot like that too. Sports is life on steroids, and that's why you can learn so many life lessons from sports.
Yeah.
So the book's called Extreme Ownership, and basically the principle is just as the leader, if you want to be a leader, and this is kind of if I was to say what is the question that this book answers, it's basically how you become a leader. That's what it is. So if you're at all interested in becoming a leader or adopting some principles, it's a really good book to read, and it's not a difficult read at all. It's not like super scientific or whatever. It's all in pretty plain language. It's not hard to read.
Yeah.
But I just like each chapter is a principle that you can apply to being a leader. Yeah. So I want to walk through a couple of them, unless you have any other words you want to say on the book.
No, the book is incredible. Read it a few times. It's and the bottom line is what it says is that you take ownership for everything in your life, even if you think it's not your fault. You have to find a way to see what role you may have played in something that didn't go well or right, and it's really good because it's humble, but it's realistic, right? It's the most realistic book I've read on leadership ever, and I guess that would be that. It's owning your life, but it's like, I'll just say this. I don't know if you're going to go into that, but when you understand the first principle is like, you can't be a leader of a hockey team or your family or anything if you can't lead yourself.
Oh, I was going to talk.
Were you going to talk about that? Yeah. So if you can't, you just can't. Like you can't. Like I can't expect my son to engage into physical activity and be dialed in and do everything properly if I can't expect it. I don't think, if I'm not doing it. He looks up to me. He's my son. If he sees dad being lazy and having really bad habits and everything he does, then how would I expect him to follow that? Right? So if you take ownership, or if he sees me making excuses for everything, why did the business not work out? Or why didn't you make the NHL? If it's always excuses, then I'm teaching him how to have excuses. That's not leadership. It's not leadership, because the reason I didn't make the NHL, we can say that I was too small. Well, so was James Harris, as I said earlier. I can say that in today's game, this, or but if I'm being honest, which I was with my son, I explained to him where I failed. And that's ownership. It's like, so you were good enough, Dad. Yes, but no. Yes, but no.
Yeah.
Because I didn't do what it takes at certain times in certain places. And some of it was I just didn't know. But if I really owned my life, I probably would have known. Like, really, that's the truth, right? Why is the business not this, and this? It's because I made mistakes. I made it. Like no one else. It's no one else's fault. Even my partner, when we make a decision, it's like, if you don't really believe in what you're doing, you just let things happen, then it goes that way. So, and like what Jordan Peterson says, right? When people talk about changing the world, you go out there and they should do this. And, all these people are telling on social media, telling how life should work. He says, go back to your room. And if your room's a freaking mess and you can't even control that, you have no business speaking about how other people should live your life, because you can't even take care of yourself.
That's right.
If you can't take care of yourself, you're not taking care of anybody else.
Yeah.
So number one, own your life, take care of yourself. So in hockey terms, I'm sorry for cutting you off, but in hockey terms is whatever type of player you are, be that consistently to 100% the best of your ability every single day. That's your starting point.